Significance of musical training. As the economy deteriorates, governments glance at any way they can to set aside some cash. Here and there, even fundamental administrations like schooling face steep cuts. At the point when schools are compelled to let loose some cash, they regularly hope to cut things like music programs. Their hypothesis is that music isn't as indispensable to a youngster's learning as things like math and English. Is this genuinely the situation, however? Are there genuine motivations to energize and encourage music programs in our schools? Truth be told, there is. There are various motivations to consider music programs, basic to a youngster's learning cycle, and here are three. 1. As opposed to mainstream thinking, hauling understudies out of ordinary classes for melodic examination doesn't influence test scores. Paul G. Young, previous leader of the National Association of Elementary School Principals, gave Principal magazine research demonstrating that making time in the school day for band or ensemble has no negative effects on members' grades. 6 different examinations in the most recent decade, that include both metropolitan and rural school regions, varying in size, financial blend and racial equilibrium, have indicated comparative outcomes. An ASTA distribution introduced the discoveries that indicated math and perusing test scores were not influenced by homeroom pullouts for string guidance. 2. Melodic preparing reinforces the brain. Plato once said that music is a more powerful instrument than some other for schooling. There are a wealth of instructors cross-country who might concur with this assertion. There are additionally examines that show it might just be valid. An ongoing report led by the University of California found that music can prepare the mind for higher types of reasoning. Second graders who got music exercises scored 27% higher on relative math and divisions tests than youngsters without melodic preparing. That is a sufficiently high number that it ought to block any discussion of a fluky report. This is unquestionably not the main investigation of its sort, all things considered. Shaw and Rauscher showed in 1997 that the investigation of music has critical linkages to kids' spatial thinking and intellectual turn of events. 3. Music will make a kid all the more balanced. The advantages of music are not restricted to scholarly. Music can help youngsters in a huge number of ways. It may not be a full-body exercise like taking a dip, however there are actual advantages connected with music. Playing an instrument has been appeared to improve a youngster's deafness. It is additionally an instrument that creates self-control. Like a military craftsmanship, learning an instrument, even your voice, requires some investment, commitment and tirelessness. On the off chance that a kid is happy to devote the time and practice it takes to get capable in music, it is a decent sign that they will have the option to move that commitment to different zones in their day-to-day existence. That is by all accounts the case indeed. Studies have discovered that music members have more inspirational perspectives, are all the more regularly chose for class office and accomplish higher evaluations, and more scholarly distinctions than their non-melodic companions. Notwithstanding such overpowering proof about the significance of music, it is very astounding that it is by all accounts one of the primary cuts that schools appear to be willing, regardless of whether it is hesitantly, to make. We should make it an objective to cultivate innovativeness, order and elevated levels of deduction in our youngsters. Melodic preparing does exactly that, thus considerably more all alone. In antiquated occasions melodic preparing was loved and held with the most extreme regard. Possibly it is time we look to the past for pieces of information to our future. Getting into musical restoration. It was around 4 years prior now, when I chose to make an electric guitar for a course I was concentrating on. It was anything but an incredible accomplishment of melodic and plan virtuoso, however it propelled me to keep working with instruments. The reclamation of guitars, specifically, isn't as hard as one might suspect. When you have essential woodwork aptitudes, the authority abilities needed for instrument reclamation are effortlessly gotten. I think, when I had dealt with my fourth parlor guitar I comprehended the strategies adequately well. I started my reclamation extends by initially distinguishing and recording each little insight concerning the instrument I was to deal with. I started with guitar since I am a traditional guitarist. Whenever I had distinguished the positions I expected to investigate or address I began. Generally the main thing I did was to either eliminate or renew, by sanding and reapplying the layer of stain or finish. Regularly I would totally eliminate it, and supplant it with a French clean completion. Next I would endeavor to fill and re-stick any breaks in the bodywork. With these old guitars there are regularly numerous hairline breaks, that should be managed sooner than later. The following activity was to check the extension and top nut, and if the either was broken unrecoverable, it would need to be supplanted. I supplanted them with a carefully assembled scaffold of my own plan dependent on a unique, obviously. When the real body of the guitar was in acceptable request, and the activity of the strings had been checked and brought down if important. Between 3 to 4 mm is ideal. The guitar regularly simply required a decent perfect prior to selling it on. Incidentally, with certain positions, the fretboard would have forests in, these can be loaded up with normal wood filler. However long they are shaded to seem as though the first wood utilized. The main thing to recall when re-establishing instruments is their sound. On the off chance that you free the sound, the instrument has no worth other than the wood it is made of. I feel compelled to emphasize that point as much as possible. Numerous individuals re-establish these instruments as they would a seat. The main activity while re-establishing it is to play it and watch that what you are doing isn't harming the principal resonation of the instrument.